But you know what? Let's just start. Let's just go into it. Back in your life, here we are with Stephen and Janaka, and we've had some issues going live with Zoom today. It's a work in progress, and it actually, to be honest, Stephen, it brings me back to the days when we first started the channel out at those little rooms in public libraries. What was that like for you? Spend some time talking about it while I get this set up.
Yeah, that was classic. Those are the good old days. A throwback to the OG times at the library. We used one of these public space recording studio kind of setups for this. So we had like a desk. There was some very basic softbox lights that were more like LED panels, and yeah, you book it for an hour. So you basically bring all your gear in, you set it up, and if you look back at our first videos, that they're classic, seeing how we just basically sat behind the desk and talked. There was no quick cuts, there was no zoom in, zoom outs, there was no B-roll. It was just the two of us talking. So yeah, that was the good old days. Yeah, it's fun to see where the channel starts from and where it goes to.
Oh, it's hilarious because yeah, it takes like it's crazy to think that all you have to do is just start, because we were so hesitant because we thought like things needed to be better, that the production needed to be better, but we started with 0 subscribers and here we are at 2,400.
Almost 2,500 now.
No, what has that journey been like?
It's been awesome. I mean, we've learned so much and we're still learning a lot. I mean, this is still uncharted territory every time I make a video and every time we do even a live stream. So, I mean, it's really a lifelong process, especially in videography. And now that we're really all living in this kind of like tech bubble with COVID, it's you learn every day how this kind of stuff works and how you can utilize live streams and how your cameras can do that too.
Yeah, it's exactly true. So, like, what do you think about COVID in the scheme of photography and videography industry? Because it seems like the vaccine's out there, but I think a lot of us were thinking, can't wait for 2021. Everything's going to be better. F 2020. 2021 is here now. There's a lot of craziness in the world still. What do you make of all of that?
I mean, you have to roll with the punches and be safe, but you also still have to work. And I think, especially you put your skills that you have to use in the best possible way by diversifying what you can do. So, for example, if you can't get out there shooting video, start working on editing of video projects that you might have or video that you can work with, so you're not missing time, still leveling up your ability. But also like today in an hour or so from now, I'm heading off to go shoot a very quick commercial for a restaurant. So it's like, you got to go in with a mask on and your gloves, you got to get ready to go and just, kind of, you don't want to be too long in an environment, especially indoors. Even if it is sanitized, you still want to be careful. So there's a whole new mindset and a game plan of how you set up your shots, make your shot list, and then also make your edits from that shot list as you're shooting now. So you're really trying to be as efficient as possible. So that's kind of the more modern mantra I go with when I shoot video now. I don't know, how about you? Like when you do, what's your like mindset behind this new realm of shooting?
Well, people are still interested in video, which is
Yeah.
fantastic, and photography. Just last night, I got another wedding inquiry. So
Ah,
people are life goes on. People need to get married.
yep.
Restaurants are chomping at the bit to open and to have customers, but also keep people in mind. Shout out to a great restaurant in Toronto called Antler. I don't know if you've heard it. The chef's literal name is Mike Hunter, right?
Mike Hunter and Antler.
And he is a chef that hunts, and so they would bring in game
Yeah.
meat and do beautiful things with game meat. He's very passionate about that, and so he has some excellent dishes that are kind of like meal kits that you can make fine dining at home. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, actually, I don't know if you heard the story, but he went viral a few years ago because a bunch of vegans really had a problem um, with his sandwich board. It said like I might be getting this wrong, but it said something like venison is the new kale or something like that, and it made people lose their mind. And so after a long time of him saying, look, like, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I don't like factory farming. I don't think animals should be
Yeah.
treated unethically. That's why I hunt, because conservation is an important part of them not suffering, you know, because out there, a deer will, a deer's life ends with it just freezing to death, starving to death, or being eaten alive, you know? So, in this way, like if it's overpopulated or the humane way of a deer going and being used in an ethical way as well, when you use every part of the animal, he agrees with all of these things that they shouldn't be suffering or anything like that. They just have two different approaches. But when people wouldn't listen to reason,
Yeah.
he was just like, you know what, F this, brought a whole leg out by the window and started carving it in front of them, which made them go even more nuts.
Yeah.
But you know, the crazy thing was when I was tuning into the Joe Rogan podcast, and then all of a sudden he was there. And
Oh, wow.
this was a guy that was my chef at Red's Wine Tavern. You know, we worked together, we knew each other, and to see him on YouTube with like millions of views, it was surreal.
It really it shows how anybody can really start to have a good basis of content, and then anybody can, you know, you can get people who subscribe at the beginning who then watch all your content, and they're the originals. They're like the founding support group that you've got, and then you just grow from there because that's word of mouth. You know, we talk about channels or suggest different things, and that whole net of people becomes so much bigger than they start to share content. So it's like with your chef colleague there. I mean, like all it takes is a spark, especially with the media, because it definitely blows it up. Like for example, the Messiah Complex. My goodness, it's now had 125,000 views on YouTube.
Amazing.
That from a private link. So now they've made it public, and it's ending on Sunday, which is just phenomenal. I mean, we've been reviewed in multiple New York Times, LA Times, all that kind of stuff, but it's all because of a spark. So that firm, good starting point and good media, good outreach through different social media platforms like Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and TikTok and all that stuff, you know, it all works in tandem so that you can get recognized one day, maybe by a Joe Rogan, or you get, you know, mentioned in a newspaper or whatever else. Like that kind of idea all comes from a beginning, but you just have to do it. And I think the other thing too that people don't realize is that even in a pandemic, and if you don't have work doing something, make work for yourself. I mean, make a project, go and shoot something, just get stock footage. There are stock footage sites. I mean, as a videographer, you don't just depend upon one avenue to generate your digital income, so to say, or as a digital way of presenting your area. So story blocks, all kinds of stuff like open source and free sharing photo software that you can use, and Amazon associate links, and all these things that when your channel is monetized, they can really help you as you're being able to diversify your net. You know, because it's up to you. It's you have to be active. You can't just like wait for this to end. Like you still have to be proactive in being able to get the video done.
Yeah, and you know what? You're really good at the hustle. You're really good at
Ah,
making your own projects. I admire you a lot for that. But you know, this is all well and good for videographers out there already. What
yeah.
about budding videographers? When people want to become a videographer right now, I know our friend Zachary Rue is looking into becoming a videographer. So,
Yeah.
what advice do you have for people getting into videography and photography right now?
I mean, get a good sense of what you want to do, and pick a camera. And you don't have to pick the most expensive camera. It doesn't have to be a ridiculously overpriced camera. And get a good camera and a good lens and just practice and practice on what you think works for you. You might find yourself being drawn towards doing vlogs. You might find yourself drawn to be doing course commercials, or even drawn towards doing short films or feature films. But the most important thing is just to practice, stumble, fail until you get better and better. And you know, you don't need to blast a lot of money out on gear, especially at the beginning stages. You know, it's very easy to get caught up in gear cycles, which I'm definitely a victim of. And I think if you just find a good Lumix or a Canon and never touch a Sony, because Sony is just the worst camera ever made. And you just find yourself a good starting camera that you works for your workflow, and you get to know that camera inside and out, so that you don't need to run to the next thing. And I think that's a big thing that most people don't really take into consideration, because there's so many people talking about the next best thing that you're like, I have to get that. And that's not how it works. So yeah, and then I say just post your content out and share it around as much as you can. Share it on Facebook. Go to find a Facebook group that you want to be part of. Maybe it's a camera like a Lumix or a Sony or a Canon group, and share your work. Ask for feedback. Because you can tap your friends and your family for so long before you should get kind of feedback from people outside of your immediate support group. And that's been key for us, actually, is being able to share our videos on Facebook groups. And so our Facebook groups see our work, and then they can actually develop a basis of viewers from there. And I think that's really key to get that kind of starting wind in the sails kind of thing.
Yeah, and if it's one thing I've learned is the times I learn the most is when I get Facebook hate. So,
Yes.
when we've made an egregious error, we have a fundamental misunderstanding of a certain topic.
Oh, yeah.
I think the most hate we ever got was over lav mics, like comparing.
Yeah, that was a big. Also, the one with the Sony. No, comparing a Lumix G9 to an iPhone 11. Like I was saying, that was a bad idea on my part.
Well,
It's like
that was just though that was like Lumix pride. I think that I don't think we learned much from, to be honest. The learning about what lav mic was, a wireless mic, how that all worked, the wireless recorder and like a wired recorder, how all that worked. We had a slight misunderstanding in how we said it. We knew how it worked,
yes.
but we had a slight misunderstanding on how we said it, and we got lambasted for it.
Ooh, that was fun.
But yeah, it is always fun. But the Lumix iPhone thing, I don't know if that was our fault.
Well, I mean, it was a little bit me trying to push the boundary of saying you can do everything on a new phone, and that is not true. I mean, they don't have the depth of field, they don't have the focal length that you can get on a proper camera. Also the sensor size is the size of like a speck of dust. But I mean, they are very good. That's not putting iPhones down; they're fantastic. But when you're talking to people who are in professional realms, it's like riding up to a Ferrari convention and driving your Volkswagen and being like, yeah, my car can compete. It's not the same. It can get the job done, but it's not going to be the same level as that. So I think that was a big thing in learning, kind of not what's acceptable, but how your reaction is going to be. But the big thing is that there is so much tech out there that you don't need to come to us for tech. I think people come for the experience of seeing who we are. And I think that's what a channel should be, is getting to know Janaka and Stephen and seeing what we do, because that's almost more interesting than sometimes just seeing, okay, new product, that's great. It's kind of cool to hear your thoughts upon your journey with that kind of piece of tech.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you're just joining us right now, this episode we decided to go live because we're giving away a FIFINE podcast mic for everyone who entered in a contest.
Yeah.
We recently gave away a DJI Osmo Action. We've given away, what was it? A Mavic Mini.
A Mavic Mini. Yep.
Different. What was the mic that you gave away in December as well?
I gave out a Vito Pal mic.
Right.
Yeah, it's a little shotgun mic. It's a great little mic. I mean, that's the best thing about this too, is that when you start to make a channel, brands begin to give you gear to show and to review. So we, in turn, as Janaka has mentioned many times, we give this gear to you. So we've got more gear coming in the mail too, whenever the mail decides to deliver it. And it's like, we've got this a GoPro variant coming in. There is another, I think, podcast mic coming. All this kind of gear we're happy to give to you. So it's really cool. Like first it was a Mavic Mini, and that was 1,000. Then the Osmo Action at 2,000. We're heading towards 3,000 faster than we would ever imagine. What's next? That's a big question.
yeah, absolutely. So we were talking about gear for budding young videographers and photographers, and there's always this conversation, like, the gear doesn't matter. It's about the story you tell and the technique you do, the shots that you take, how you edit it. But you know, these conversations aren't always black and white. You know, there's also the conversation: what's better, telescopic or prime? You know, Sony or Lumix? Well, we know the answer to that one. But uh,
uh,
but you know, usually when it comes to stuff like this, there's a balance, right?
yeah.
So a new photographer, not a new videographer, obviously can't just go out with an iPhone, right? Or can they?
No. Well, that's a good question because like taking photos on the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 12 is very good. The new iPhone 12 Pro Max or whatever the latest, highest, best version of the iPhone has built-in image stabilization. It's got ProRes now on it. Like all these high-end cinema camera features that you would pay for in a very expensive camera setup are now in your pocket. The only thing is that I find is that the iPhone in many ways has a digital look, which you can do this for projects and it's very, you know, it will give you a good result, but you want to be known for, I think, delivering the best results with gear that's meant for it, if that makes any sense. So to really, because these things can only do so much. They're good, but you can really push and pull manual settings, and you can utilize different settings like anamorphic settings on certain cameras. And you can't really do anamorphic, although Moment does make anamorphic lenses for the phone. I just think that also it's the old stigma that you don't show up to a buffet with a sandwich. Like you want to make sure that you bring proper gear to a shoot. It looks better to a client, especially. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, you know, I see it like putting a Ferrari kit on a Toyota. You know, it
Yeah,
it's cool that it has the features like the spoilers and all of that, but
yeah,
in the end, it's not going to be as fast as the Toyota, and that's what I find.
yeah,
You know, there's all of these features on an iPhone, which is great. You know, people go nuts for them, but
yep,
you know, it's never going to be a Vericam or even like a mirrorless camera because there's just so much more that it can do.
yeah.
But there is a balance to be had because you know you and I didn't start with the best gear, and
No,
you mentioned that you did get caught up in gear cycles because there's always that want and need for it to look better coming right out of the camera, but
hmm,
you know, don't get fooled with features that won't actually deliver what you want it to do. You know, there's things that say like cameras coming in with 16-bit and 8K and things like that, but if certain data transfer speeds aren't there, then you just don't get the quality that you're looking for.
yeah.
And
I think that's a big thing. That really is a huge thing because, like you say, can your computer handle it? Like, imagine shooting in a 16-bit 8K. Could you even like? Would you then have to upgrade your computer to do this just because you got a new camera?
it's never ending, you know,
Yeah,
and you know, you also mentioned though there's a certain polish that comes as being a professional though to make people feel more comfortable. Now that you're walking into gigs with a Z cam instead of
mhm.
a Lumix, have you noticed a difference in how people treat you?
Yes, I'd say
Oh,
yes. I'd say a little bit. But it's not the gear that is. This is a weird thing. It's not the gear that gets me to look. It's the confidence in what I'm doing. I think that makes the client look at you differently because I think with the Lumix, it is very good. I mean, I've used this camera on everything, and it does do very good results. And especially the GH5, and I had that too, all that kind of stuff. Whereas with the Zcam, it's I mean, it does get a better result. It's got better depth of a better bit rate. Pardon me. It's got a 6K and 4K and ProRes and all that kind of stuff that makes a proper cinema camera setup like a Red or an RE or like the industry standard cameras that you have for filmmaking. But it's interesting. Yes, it does get you a nod of the head, being like, "Ooh, that's good," but it's the confidence and come when you use that camera because you look and you have a certain time to shoot. You're not wasting time with that particular shooting process because it shoots on CFast cards, which I'm gonna do a whole bunch of videos coming up in the Zcam. Stay tuned for that. I'll talk all about them. But you don't have endless file storage. Whereas like with the SD cards, you can pop them in and out. You can get SD cards for like $100 or $80 for for 128 gigabytes, 256 or whatever.
yeah.
Whereas a CFast 256 card costs now about $400 or $300 just for one 256 gigabyte card. If you're shooting in ProRes, you'll go through that card in about an hour. So if that, be 45 minutes. With your ProRes 422, definitely. And so you have to utilize the confidence in knowing that you have great gear, but you need to be responsible in using it, because the worst thing is running out of data space, if you're shooting a commercial or anything.
Yep, absolutely. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get to the nitty gritty of giving.
These are jewels of knowledge. I mean, it's just like we're imparting.
We can talk about this forever, and you know what?
I know we can, yeah.
Like, I still want to ask you about, where is the Mavic 3? That was supposed to come out last year as well. There's all sorts of questions I have still that I want to discuss. Cause
live streams.
yeah, and it's just amazing that how we get the ball rolling and we keep going. But let's make sure that we give this away to one member. So what we did was I put in all the names that entered into Pixr, and so with that, we had 82 people enter into the contest, so it should be pretty easy.
Okay, here we go. Should we do a drum roll here?
Please. And hold on, let me pull it up. Oh. Okay. And here we go. Headless Chicken. So
Headless Chicken. He's an OG. I like this.
Okay, yeah. Okay, you recognize him from the comments. Good.
I do, yeah. That's awesome.
Like, he's been commenting for a while, so yeah, that's great that he won. But so I don't know where he's located, because if he's say, like, Kevin Kaw, he paid for the shipping. He was from Malaysia, and it cost $60. I don't know where Headless Chicken's located. I don't know if it'll make sense for him to pay a lot for it to get.
Hopefully it's Canada or the United States.
Yeah, hopefully it's Canada or the United States. And maybe we can see if we could do something about that as well.
Yeah, we'll reach out to Headless for sure. We'll send you a message, buddy, and we'll see where you're at. And it's a phenomenal podcast, Mike, as Janaka spoke backwards into it, and it's still got fantastic results. So this is a great podcast, Mike, and you're really going to enjoy it.
Yeah. So what I was doing was I was putting it so you could see the FIFINE logo, but what it meant was I was speaking backwards into it. Yeah, and so don't do that. Don't do what Donnie Janaka didn't, if you saw the episode with the Simpsons quote. But it's a fantastic mic. I was really shocked, actually, how good it was.
It's a good quality microphone, and there's a lot of podcast mics out there, and there's a lot of people starting to do podcasts. And don't forget, this mic is not just a podcast mic. You can use it also for vlogs. So for example, you can plug that into your computer. You can turn it into a whole vlog setup for yourself. You can plug it into a camera if you want to too. I'm sure there's some sort of interface that will allow for that. So, I mean, this is a versatile little mic.
It's a USB mic. So
there you go.
You have to put it into a computer. But I'm like, in the days of like Zooming everything, it's not just photography and videography people that can use this. Like, and disclaimer, we're not paid by FIFINE. No. We're not sponsored by them in any way. This is our honest opinion. But Zoom calls, sound is important for that. Also, what I've been using on my Zoom calls is, let's see if is it here? Oh yeah, here we go. This little guy. This episode.
Oh yeah.
Soon too. This little guy is amazing. And again, we're not paid or sponsored by Aperture at all, but I'm going to be putting up an episode real soon about my fanboying for this.
And I told you to get it a long time ago. I'm so happy you got it, because that's a phenomenal RGB mic. RGB light.
Yeah, I made sure to mention that in the episode, because you were spot on about this recommendation.
I have 2 of them. I love them.
It's like, it has magnets on the back too. It's like, it's amazing. So
it has a little 1/4-inch thread, so you can put it into a stand. You can, it's app controllable with a Sidus Link app, so you can use it on your phone. You can do all kinds of stuff being able to control it.
Bro, you're giving away the episode already.
Oh, you can go into specifics, my friend. You can go into specifics.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? I think that's good for now. Maybe
Yeah.
next time we'll talk about the Mavic 3 and where that's at and what DJI is thinking. Maybe how we see COVID playing out for the rest of the year. I'll update you on GameStop because it's
Yeah.
crazy. So for anyone,
If you guys want to talk about also crypto, like Janik and I aren't day traders, but we like to do a little tiny bit of dabbling in. And I think we've learned a little bit in the past 2 or 3 months to share some knowledge. So if you'd be interested in having a live stream, because we're not going to do episodes on it, we're not those kind of guys. But if you want to do a live stream talking about crypto, or you had questions about it, or Robinhood and the issues, let's drop us a line. Let us know.
yeah. So and a full disclaimer: I was in a GameStop as of $75 at the start of this week, and it's been insane.
And you can now buy yourself a Lumix camera. Congratulations.
Well, before I do that, you know what, I'll go buy a rock out on the street because
Oh,
I'll be able to take better pictures of that. But no, but like it's been insane, and this is in no way financial advice for anyone. You don't put anything into the stock market that you're not afraid to lose. But I was able to turn $900 into $5,500. Right?
that's amazing. That's
Which is
awesome.
unbelievable. This is truly unprecedented. And you know what? We all go through these phases in different ways because, like, me, I still have the magazine from 2013 when I was talking about how huge Bitcoin was going to be. I missed out on Netflix. I missed out on Tesla. I missed out on the crash last March, all because I was just a little afraid of losing money. And finally, I was like, you know what? I got this check from PSR. Shout out to PSR that I wasn't expecting. For a gig I did for them last year. So I just put that into GameStop, and
There you go.
timing was right because, like, yeah, when do you really have just money lying around?
I mean, it's very. You have to also, I think, too, like you gotta be careful with the certain areas because it's obviously very volatile on a short squeeze.
100%.
And not to go too far into it, but like I think one bit of knowledge I would definitely recommend, and I would definitely suggest that you just tuck away a bit every paycheck for people. Invest in Ethereum because Ethereum, I think, not to give shout outs to
This is
particular
no way
things.
financial advice. This is
No.
knowledge advice. When you say you should put a little bit of money into Ethereum, what you mean is we're doing that right now.
And I would suggest if you're interested in it, it's less volatile than a Bitcoin because it's going to be everything will one day probably be based on in terms of blockchain, because it will happen. There will be eventually a new digital currency of some sort of capacity that will be established underneath the traditional norms that we have. And that blockchain will be Ethereum. So don't go run to the coin wallets and drop it all in there. But if you're interested in wading into the water, or at least going into the shallow end, put a couple $100 in Ethereum and just see what happens. I stand by that one. I think that's going to be a big one in the future for us.
Yeah, and we're talking in the future because you never know what's going to happen with short-term volatility.
Yes.
Yeah, we're telling you what we think, and in the future, if you're interested, we could tell you why we think that. Because Ethereum 2.0 is going to be great. The whole Ethereum platform is fantastic. People are already using that very well. Even though I thought Bitcoin was going to be huge back in 2013, I ended up going and investing in Ethereum because I actually believe in Ethereum more. And again, we could talk about more why I believe that. But for the time being, it's Bitcoin's day. And so, to all of those people holding Bitcoin, whether you have access to your wallets or not, we congratulate you. Have you heard about this guy who has 7,200 Bitcoin?
And he threw it out in the trash or something?
He has the wallet, right? He forgot the password. He has 10 tries. He's at 8. And he just stays up trying to figure out what was my password.
Have you heard about the guy who also had, I think it was like, I forget the equivalent value, it's like $285 million in Bitcoin or whatever it was. But anyways, it was on a drive that he had some information for it. He threw out either the application or the application login or something to do with the previous version of getting into the coin wallets, because back in the day, they were very difficult to get into. Now it's a bit easier for the mainstream retail investor, but back in the day, it was hard. It was put into a landfill in the UK somewhere. He's actually petitioned the city to dig up a landfill to find a drive he threw away 3 years ago. So, and he'll share the wealth if he's able to do it with the city that has the landfill. So, you know, shout out to him if he can do it. That's crazy.
I have no idea how that would even happen. You're literally petitioning a city to go dig for buried treasure.
Yeah, why not? And how do we get to this from a podcast giveaway? The podcast mic becomes this. That's fantastic.
You know, and so that's exactly it. We have a lot of interest and we can talk about a lot of things all the time. But you know, we'll sign off. But thanks for everyone watching, and we'll catch you soon. From Stephen and myself, Janaka. We'll catch you later.
And like and subscribe. Comment below.
That's right. Like and subscribe.